to say that those are things that affect, because we find ourselves, we say things like that, we believe things like that, it really affects our mindset, doesn't it? Because if I go throughout the day and I think, oh, things will just work themselves out, and I put those things to the side, then they never show up again until they materialize in the way that the things thought that they should work out. And if I go around every day and I believe in what I can achieve, but I'm never putting any actions to them, really I'm just dreaming out loud and I'm thinking out loud. I'm not intentional with the results I want to have. I want to submit to somebody today. Everything that you have is the direct result of some decision you've made, some choice you've made, some action you've taken, or some lack thereof. No matter who we feel like is responsible for what we have, at the end of the day, you are responsible. You are responsible for everything. Everything that you have. Everything that you have. And the exciting part about us is that we often make excuses, don't we? I, could have ever found myself for probably about I won't tell you how old I am, but I'll say for the first 30 years of my life, making excuses. Could have had this happened to me when I was a little girl. I remember when somebody said this, and the other, or so-and-so did such and such to me. And we go around feeling sorry for ourselves. And we take on the persona of being just straight blame pushers. We're not ready to accept, this is my fault. This is my life. I have the authority. I have the power to say what happens to me. From here on, no matter what happened to us in the past, because here's what I learned about my past circumstances. Everything in life that I've been through, now that I know where I am and what I'm supposed to be doing, it didn't happen to me. Everything that I've been through has happened for me. For me. So you learn how to appreciate those challenging positions. How do I know if I'm a diamond? Well, because I've been through some rough things. How do I know that I can shine like a light? Well, it's because I've been in the darkness. How do I know and how can I say emphatically that I am a strong woman? It's because at one point in my life, I was weak. I was weak and helpless and looking for resources. Somebody help me. And I was looking for that from everybody except for where the true power lies. The true power is not in your best friends that say, come on, Benita, you can do it. And I believe that you can. And no matter how much I tell her that or how much I tell you, you can do it. You can be anything that you want to be until you decide that it's time to maximize and be everything that God has created me to be. They're just words. They're just cheers. It's got to take root. And it will. It absolutely will. I told you about my shift just a couple of years ago. It's been recent. But is there anybody in the room, and it's okay to be honest, I think we're all here for the same reasons. Anybody feel like there's got to be more to life than this? There's absolutely got to be more than this. There had to be some reason. I remember asking God one day, God, is this it? Did you really make me to wake up every day, to go to a job that I don't particularly care to go to be around people that I don't particularly be around, and then I work there all day, and then I shuffle kids around the other half of the day, and then at night I gotta go home, and I gotta take care of my husband, and then the next thing you know, it's time for me to go to bed, and I've lost myself in all of that. Is this it? I've got 50, 60 more years to look forward to of this? And I'll tell you, that's when it happened for me. That's when it happened for me. No. Somebody told me you only get once around at this life. And I can feel sorry for myself, and I can complain about how tired I am and how much I've been given and the circumstances that I face. Or I can take those things and I can do something. I can do something. You can do something, and you can do something, and you can do something. We all can do something because we were all created to do something.
Yes.
Something.
Right.
Anybody wake up in the morning and just say, you know, whatever happens today just happens. And I don't mean to, I'm not pushing my religion on you. I do have to own the fact that I do believe that Jesus Christ died and rose for my sins. I do believe that. I'm not pushing that on you. But how many of us wake up in the morning and we say, Lord, it be your will. Anything that happens today just happens. We're guilty of that as Christians. I can tell that I'm not the only person in the room. And I live my life as such. Whatever happens to me must have been the Lord's will. Must have been the Lord's will that happened. I fell down. That must have been the Lord's will. You know, I'm losing some important people in my life. Oh, well, that must have been the Lord's will. Really don't have enough money to, to cover my bills and do the things that I need to take care of. Well, the Lord must want me to struggle. Not so. The word tells us that he wants us to have the abundant life. I come that you might have life and have life more abundantly. More abundantly. So I got curious about that abundant life. What is it talking about? Does he mean he's going to give me $1 million? No, because he knows that I wouldn't be a good steward over it. But what is abundant living? What is abundant living? And so we're just going to talk about that just a little bit. Anybody ever heard this word? Purpose. 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 I have to tell you, when I say this word, it's like I just get goosebumps. Why? Because I can honestly say, finally, I know what mine is. Purpose, purpose, purpose. And because I know what my purpose is, and because I know what I went through to get to this point, it's kind of what initiated Dr. Stevens and I. What do we want to do today? What do we want to give people? What's really going on in our community, and why? See, when you don't have purpose, you live kind of carelessly. When you don't have purpose, you don't understand how much your life really affects the lives of so many other people in your homes, in your neighborhoods, and in our communities, in the nation, and even in the world. Everything you do, everything you say, it affects more than just you.
That's right.
Billions of people in the world. It's not just you. I'm going to ask this question, and don't be ashamed. If it shames you, then just don't, but just be honest in your heart. How many of you in the room can honestly say, I know why God put me here? And it's okay. It's okay. John Maxwell is one of the leadership gurus. I mean, just an awesome, empowered man. One thing that he says, he tells a story, and he does these conferences all over the world, many different types of conferences, and they're usually very high level conferences. So he says one day he's doing a conference, and there's about 200 executives in the room. I mean executives, people that sign the checks, kind of executive, 6-7 figure income type of executives. So they have been successful in achieving that, right? So he said, he asked the question, how many of you very successful people can honestly tell me, he had 200 people stand up. He said, how many of you can honestly tell me that you found your purpose? And out of the 200 people that were once standing, only 2 remained. And the 2 included himself and another person. A lot of people confuse that word. Success. We've arrived, we've arrived. Success means that, I've got enough money finally, I've got the job that I want finally. Success won't give you purpose. Purpose is not equivalent to position. Purpose comes from within. But it's okay. I'm glad that you all were honest, but here's a nugget I wanted to drop on you about purpose. See, a lot of people I run into and they say, Deidre, tell me about this purpose. I'm working and I'm praying. There again, if it's God's will that he's going to show me my purpose, help me find it. Can I tell you that purpose is not something that you have to go out and look for or search for or discover? Purpose is inside of you. And guess what? You were born with that purpose. You are. Here's the thing though. So I submit to you, instead of going out and trying to discover what your purpose is, you should in turn be trying to discover what's keeping you from your purpose. Because often that's what happens. Life happens. Circumstances happen. Disappointments happen. Children happen. Husbands happen. Bills happen. And we let all those things get in the way of really getting to the core of who we really are. I told you that at the age of 18, I was a senior in high school, softball scholarship in hand. My mom is sitting right here. She can vouch for my story. Softball scholarship in hand, and school's calling. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to commit to? Where are you going to commit to? And I remember having a conversation with my coach because I had already told her why I hadn't committed to a school yet. And I said, well, how do you suppose I tell these people that I can't accept their full ride scholarships? See, all my life I've been told how smart of a girl I am. And don't get me wrong, I still believe that. Thank you, Mother. I am a smart girl. She taught me that and nothing else, and I own that. You're a smart girl, and you're gonna go far. You know how you kind of grow up feeling like everybody's depending on you? That's how I grew up. You know, I was active in the church, and active in my community, and active in my school. I graduated with a 4.0 GPA, top 10% of my class. I got a full ride to go to school to play softball. And I'm excited. But now, and I'll never forget what I was told. My coach told me, I remember asking the question, tell me what do I say, tell me what I do. And I was looking for advice, something that would steer me in the direction of maybe put it off this year and see if you can pick it up next year. That encouragement didn't come. I'll tell you exactly what I was told that day when I asked my coach, what should I say? What should I say to him? That person told me, why don't you tell him that you're just having a baby? And I remember that feeling. I remember how it made me feel. And until years later, I didn't recognize the profound impact that one statement had on my life. Not because my parents were disappointed in me, but there was some coach that I had given everything that I had, even as a young child, that I knew was depending on me, that I was so used to being my encourager, that I was so used to that person being my supporter, just dropped me off. And it didn't end there. I lived the next 20 years of my life with that same feeling of guilt and shame and disappointment. I did. Until finally one day, I said, you know what? There's got to be more to life than this. There's got to be. My mom tells a story. She said, when you were a baby, you cried all night long. And you just wouldn't go to sleep because I've always felt like I had something to say. You know, anybody ever feel like that? I don't know why. It's just always been in me to be the person, you know, that wants to be the encourager, to be the person that wants to lift a person up. And I associate that with everything that I've been through. Why? Because I know what it feels like to be hurt and discouraged. So, life didn't happen to me. Life happened for me in that regard, because now my mission and my purpose to become it. You can be that. You can have whatever you want. But you have to be willing. And you have to be willing to move all that extra stuff and that extra baggage that Dr. Stevens was talking about. Move it aside. And really get inside of you. But here's what I learned about getting inside of you. Getting inside of you can often be painful, because once you get inside of you, it leaves you with you. Yes. I've made some poor decisions. I have. Yes. I own the repercussions of those decisions, regardless of how I felt. If this person would have done that, and this person would have done that, and I would have got a different kind of help, or somebody would have told me this, then maybe I would have been different. That's over. It's not about anybody except you. Yes. So for those of you that say, really chasing my purpose, don't know what it is, it's there. But what is it that's keeping you from it? What is causing that disconnect? There's something there, and only you can answer that question. You get inside it. You want to talk about God? That should be your new prayer to God. Not to give you your purpose, but to move whatever is keeping you from your purpose out of the way. So that you can get to his business. So that you can get to being who you were really created to be. So that you can just kind of get going on life. Did I help anybody with that? Yeah. Oftentimes we say, well, I don't really know what to be doing. I'll tell you, I won't call it the gift of gab, because that's what somebody told me one day. They said, Deidre, you know you really have the gift of gab. And I said, well, what really does that mean? Does it mean that I can carry on an intellectual conversation with you, and I've got wit and kind of quick on my feet? Is that what you call gab? Is that I can sit in the room with the most important of the most important and not be uncomfortable? Is that gab? That's just who I am. And there's no shame in my game. And there's something that only you were created to do. Only you were created to do. Only I was created to smile the way that I smile, to encourage the way that I encourage, to be the light that I am. God created me just for this day. Because he knew, Deidre, there's going to be something that you're going to be able to tell a room full of 60 plus people about your story and about how you discovered your purpose and how you can help them to get on your way. Oftentimes, we don't really know what to do or how to do it. We know that we have a gift. We know that we have a passion. We know that we want to be doing something with all of that. But can I tell you that once you find out what your why is, why I get up in the morning, why I smile the way that I smile, why I intentionally add value to people, why I want to make anybody feel like the most important person in the world, why? Once you figure out your why, your way becomes so evident. We've heard the saying that your gift will make room for you. And I'm here to tell you this morning that it absolutely will. So for that person that says, don't quite know where I am, what I should be doing, first of all, I want you to be intentional about getting in tune with yourself, going inside of yourself. But I want to submit to somebody that if you want something that you never had, you must be willing to do something
you've never done.
That you've never done. Never got up in a room full of people like this before. Never. I sing, but I've done that kind of my whole life. It's kind of what people expected me to do. I bet some of you came this morning expecting me to sing a song, right? I'm sure. But there's way that I'm talking about. Always when you find your why, you'll find your way. And if I'm willing to do something different, that different is not always going to be comfortable. That different is not always going to be easy. What are you willing to give up for you? There's some stuff that's really not important anyway that's getting in the way, that's clouding you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up my best friend, my encourager, She's my pace setter. See, she goes way out there, and I play catch up with her every now and again, literally sometimes, because she tries to make me run, y'all. But I want you to give it up for a young lady. I'm going to bring her up. What is intentionality? Your life is your own. You can have a great story as long as you write it. Why be intentional? Well, we're not ready to accept the results that come to us unintentionally. How should I be intentional? I call up my best friend, Dr. Benita Stevens, owner and operator of Child Bella Medical Center and Spa. All that's big and important, but you just know that she has a heart for people. She has a heart for me. And she has a very good story when it talks about process. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Benita Stevens.
Wow, so are any of y'all out there trying to get rid of some of those bags that you've been carrying? Yeah. All right, you're still thinking about it, huh? You got to take off some of those bags. You got to get rid of some of those catchy cliches that you've been saying. I know some of you all have said things like, you know, I'm more than a conqueror. I'm above and not beneath. I'm the head and not the tail. And you probably even said that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I'm here to tell you that you can. But you got to get to a point where not only do you say those things, but you truly believe them. And you act with a sense of expectation that those things are actually going to occur. And so right now we're going to move into the how of intentional living. And I want to summarize that with what I call the 3 P's. And that is process, perseverance, and pain. Okay? And so a lot of times we're out here trying to figure out how we're going to write this story, the ways to go about it, and we get so caught up in going from point A to point B. And we forget all about that stuff that's in between. We just completely block that out. But I want to submit to you all today that you have to learn to get comfortable with the process. You have to learn to enjoy that process. Okay? So, for those of you all who know me outside of here, you probably are familiar with the fact that I run marathons. I ran about 7 up to date. I run a whole host of half marathons, 10Ks and 5Ks and all that stuff. But my real passion is running a marathon, which is 26.2 miles. And so every time I get ready to run this marathon, I always have a period of preparation that I go through. And so one of the first things that I do is I usually will announce on Facebook that I'm getting ready to run another race. And I really only do that for one reason, and that's simply for accountability. And so I want to help you all today. You need to have somebody who's going to hold you accountable to do those things that you say you want to do. Okay? You need to have somebody in your circle that's keeping in touch with you. And so when you say that you're going to go open up your own business, they're right there saying, okay, do you have your business plan? Have you started on that? You know, if you say that you're going to lose weight, they're right there saying, okay, I saw you went out to Longhorns to eat the other day, but you told me that you want to start, that you want to lose some weight. So you need somebody to hold you accountable. The next thing that I do is I develop a very strategic plan about how I'm going to get these 26.2 miles done. And my friends know, you know, I can tell you from the day that I say that I'm going to start training for this marathon to the day that I run it, I know exactly how many miles I'm going to run each and every single day. I know how much I'm going to run. I know what I'm going to run on this day and that day. I know if it's going to be a speed workout. I know if it's going to be a recovery run. I know if it's going to be a tempo run. I know if it's going to be a long run, anywhere from 8 to 20-something miles that day. I know. And I know if my friend calls me on Friday and say, can you go out with me, that the answer would be no, because you can't stay out all night and get up and run 20 miles in the morning. So I'm very strategic with that. I'm very strategic with my diet. I already try to practice clean eating, but I'm even more intentional about the things that I put in my body because I know nutrition is key. So I say all that to say is that whenever you decide that you want to do something, you have to do what I call create your own laboratory. And that laboratory is that place where you put all of those different things in it that set you up to do nothing but succeed. And at the same time, you want to get rid of those things that can keep you from succeeding. Okay, so you have to create that laboratory, that place that is gonna put you in the right direction for success. So I wanna tell you all a little story. There was a time when I decided that, had run a few marathons and it was time for me to get ready to try to qualify for Boston. And if you know anything about running marathons, you know that any of us who run, we really want to run Boston. Boston is like the championship of running. And you have to qualify for it in your age group. And so I got ready to run this race, and for my preparatory part, I had been used to, I call it doing the basics. Okay? And so let me pause here and say, there is a time period where you want to make sure that you can just master the basics. There are going to be some things in your life that you just need to learn how to be consistent with it. Okay? In the case of running, you want to just get used to just going out and just running 5, 8, 10 miles on a consistent schedule. If you say you're going to run 3-4 days a week, and you make sure that you run 3-4 days a week, and make sure that at the end you can just finish the race. Everybody get what I'm saying? But at this time, when I decided I was ready to try to qualify for Boston, I had to be a little bit more strategic with this plan. And when you get to the point where you're starting to be a little bit more strategic and intentional, you finally cross that line from being an amateur to a professional. You want to cross that line. There's going to be some times where you want to be a professional at what you're doing. And so I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm having a great training. I prepare for about 12 to 16 weeks before I do these races. And we got about a little less than 2 weeks to go. And all of a sudden, after running a training run, it was a speed run that day, I just started feeling weird, But, sometimes I feel like that. And so, I kind of ignored it, went about my day, went home, took a shower, got dressed, went to the office and started seeing patients. And I'm walking around in the office and I'm still kind of feeling weird. So being the doctor that I am, I checked my pulse. And I'm like, wow, man, this doesn't feel right. It's feeling like it's higher than it usually is. So I checked my blood pressure. And my blood pressure is higher than it usually is. And I know being a marathon runner that usually my heart rate is somewhere in the high 40s, low 50s. That's where I live. Okay, and so I get my assistant to put me on the EKG machine after I had listened to my heart, and it was exactly what I thought, AFib. And if any of you all are familiar with it, you know that that's an abnormal heart rhythm. And so I'm sitting here thinking, how can I be in the most incredible shape of my life, and all of a sudden, I have AFib? So over the course of the day, I call my friendly cardiologist. He gets me in the office. He confirms that this is what it is. He gives me some drugs to convert this rhythm, and I'm back to normal. And of course, the one question that I ask is, can I still run? And so he says yes, and because I love my mother and my sister so much, I promised them that I would at least take a day off and not run the next day. And so I take the day off, and then the next day I'm out and I'm like, okay, it's time for my comeback run. Let me get out here and see what I can do with this running. And so I get outside and I go run this 10-mile run, and I'm feeling great, except at the very last quarter of the mile. And I notice that I'm starting to have some pain in my foot. And so again, I try to ignore it, and I go through the day, and as I keep seeing patients and stuff, the more and more I walk around, I start limping, okay? And so at this point, I'm like, okay, this is crazy. I just had this scare with my heart, and now something is happening with my foot. But I did something that wasn't so intentional. I just said, well, I'm gonna go home and I'm just sleep it off and just see what happens. And so I have this rule that when I run, I can never get up the next day and just say, I don't feel like running, so I'm not gonna run today, especially when I'm training. So my rule is you have to get up out of bed, you gotta put your clothes on, you gotta put your shoes on, you have to walk out the door, you have to start running, and then, and only then, if you say, I cannot run, then you don't have to run that day. So I did just that. I got up and I walked outside of my house. And so I get outside in front of the house, getting ready to start running around the neighborhood like I always do. And as I begin to walk, I'm having a significant amount of pain. And at this point in time, I'm really, literally in tears. Because I know that this is plantar fasciitis, and I know that this right here could stop you from running the race. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I kid you not, I just started kind of walking around in front of my house, and I'm just limping, and I'm just, pacing. back and forth in front of my door. I'm just pacing. And I'm having all of this pain on my foot, and I'm just pacing. And so I keep pacing, and I'm praying. And I know my neighbors probably thought I was crazy because they probably just see me. I'm just right in front of my door because I can't really get any further. And I'm just walking back and forth, and I'm just pacing and praying. And I did this for about 10 to 15 minutes. And here I am, I'm just pacing and praying. And so finally, after I keep pacing and walking around and praying, all of a sudden I start to feel like a release. And I feel like, oh, maybe I can get a little bit more pressure on it. And so I speed it up a little bit, and I keep pacing and praying. And all of a sudden, this pain that I was having in my foot is getting a whole lot better. And then I started to take off to run. And I ended up running those 5 miles that day. And I'm not telling you this to tell you to ignore what your body is saying, because Lord knows you should definitely listen to it. But I knew what was inside of me. And I knew that I had not trained for about 14 weeks just to give up and say that I wasn't going to run this marathon. So I want to submit to you that you have to persevere. You have to be willing to just keep on going and going and going. You see, a lot of times we'll decide that we're going to just give up because we are afraid of failure and we're afraid of disappointment. We don't want to feel that pain of disappointment. And so, needless to say, I went on to run that marathon. I got on that plane and I went to Utah and I ran that marathon and I qualified for Boston all in the same day. However, you do have to be careful with the pain because there are going to be some obstacles that come into your way. Okay? You have to know that there are going to be some things that derail you, and you have to get comfortable with mastering plan B. See, I had a plan A here today. I really want y'all to see that video. And they know that that's bothering me right now. But we couldn't watch that video. And so you just have to be able to adapt in any situation and realize that things are going to come your way that you weren't expecting, but that still doesn't mean that you can't do the things that you said that you're going to do.
All right.
So intentional living is a continuous process, and you're going to have to make small adjustments day by day. So many of us quit prematurely because we are so afraid of failure. We're so afraid of the pain of disappointment. But you want to remember that pain is temporary, but quitting, that lasts forever.
Yes.
So I want to say to you, don't quit. And I want to say to you, don't quit. And I'm going to say it one more time, don't quit. Because what would this world miss if you didn't tell your story? The greatest story ever told begins when you decide to write it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope something that we said be very helpful to you. And I want to bring up the song.
Having a hard time keeping my microphone in my pocket. Give it up for Dr. Stevens one more time. We're going to move into another segment. I know all of you